In this video, we are going to talk about the beginnings of the UFC, so before starting this video, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for the future updates. The Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, is widely known as the largest mixed martial arts MMA promotion company in the world. It has held over 500 events as of 2020. However, many fans of MMA don't seem to realize that the UFC actually came from very humble beginning before claiming its spot at the top of the MMA world. This is why I've written this post to explain exactly how and when UFC started. The first UFC began on the 12th November 1993 when Wowodu Promotions produced its first ever mixed martial arts event, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which would later be renamed to UFC 1, the beginning. The event was held at the McNichols Sports Arena in Denver, Colorado, and was also broadcasted live. Although this is widely seen as the first UFC, inspiration for the event can go as far back as 1989 and involves some very interesting stories that would play a key role in the creation and growth of the UFC into what it is today. When was UFC started? It all began when a certain entrepreneur known as Art Davie sought to answer the following question: who would win in a fight between a boxer or a wrestler? To answer his question, Davie brought proposals to John Milius, a well-known screenwriter and director, as well as Royce Gracie, a prominent Gracie Jiu-Jitsu grandmaster, detailing plans for a certain elimination-style tournament dubbed as War of the Worlds. Davie was reportedly drawn to Rorion via a Playboy article in September 1989 that he released offering to fight anyone in the country for a winner-takes-all prize of $100,000. Davie was eager to promote a competitive tournament format that featured crossovers from various popular fighting styles. As such, the War of the Worlds took inspiration from the video series Gracie's in Action that was promoted by the Gracie family in Brazil. The video series featured their signature fighting style, the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, defeating martial arts of other disciplines such as kickboxing and karate. Davie was eager to provide the same sort of excitement and anticipation as those videos, and John Milius agreed to act as the event's creative director. After setting up a business plan and gathering funding from 28 investors, Wowodu Promotions was founded. Key founders of the company include Art Davie, Royce Gracie, John Milius, as well as Bob Merowitz and David Isaacs, who are all seen as the first owners of the company that would become the UFC. Wowodu Promotions was the earliest form of the UFC as we know it today, and was created with plans to start putting Davie's tournament format into action as well as potentially developing it into a television franchise. This became a reality on November 12, 1993, when Wowodu Promotions partnered with SEG, a similar pioneer in pay-per-view television, released their first event, which they would dub UFC 1, the beginning at a later date. The live event itself was extremely low profile. Initial plans for a 16-man tournament had to be scaled back as many of the biggest names in the martial arts world at the time showed no interest in participating. The venue itself was also less than half packed on the day and did not see much attention from the media. However, the TV show was a resounding success, generating over 85,000 subscribers on pay-per-view. New audiences would also be attracted once the event was eventually released on home video. The UFC 1 is seen as a pioneer for tournaments featuring fights between practitioners of different martial arts, and its success made sure that there would be demand for tournaments of a similar style in the future. This would end up playing a key role in the rise of UFC as the most dominant MMA promotion company in the world. Who were the first UFC fighters? UFC 1 had initial difficulty in gathering enough fighters for the events. Art Davie had initially sent out many public invitations, but found himself rejected by many of the big-name martial artists at the time, such as Dennis Alexio, former undisputed world heavyweight kickboxing champion. The 8 participants of the tournament and their eventual results were Royce Gracie, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Royce Gracie is a member of the influential Gracie family, who are known as creators of the style of martial arts known as Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, more commonly known as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is one of the many members of the family who played a key role in the creation of and promotion of the UFC. Before the UFC, many of the Gracies had already had experience in fighting martial artists from different disciplines in contests known as the Gracie Challenge. Royce's eventual win in the first ever UFC tournament brought immense fame to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style of martial arts. During the event, he ended up beating all of his opponents via submission and shocked many by how he was able to sweep aside opponents that were bigger and significantly outweighed him. Today, BJJ remains one of the most dominant styles of fighting in the MMA world and is second only to wrestling in producing the most UFC champions over the years. A lot of this can be attributed to the success Royce has had with this fighting style in the field of MMA. He would go on to win UFC 2 and 4, whilst also fighting to a draw against professional wrestler Ken Shamrock in UFC. Patrick Smith, kickboxing, taekwondo. Patrick Smith is an American kickboxer that also incorporates some forms of taekwondo in his fighting style. As the UFC 1 was to take place in his hometown of Denver, Smith was seen as an easy addition to the show, which desperate for fighters to fill its ranks. During the year where UFC 1 took place, Smith was ranked as the #1 super heavyweight kickboxer in the US. Smith's first and only round was against wrestler Ken Shamrock. During the match, Smith was taken down and easily submitted by his opponent, which led to heavy boos from his home crowd fans in Denver who were expected a knockout and were not aware of any submission rules. Despite his performance in UFC 1, Smith would be re-invited to UFC 2, where he saw greater success, winning against fighters such as Ray Wizard and Scott Morris before being defeated by eventual winner Royce Gracie in the finals. Ken Shamrock, shoot fighting. Ken Shamrock is a professional wrestler best known for the time he has spent in the UFC. Shamrock is widely seen as one of the greatest fighters to have graced MMA alongside Royce Gracie, with whom he shared a fierce rivalry. This rivalry arguably began at UFC 1, where Shamrock was one of the favorites to take the entire tournament due to his dangerous style of submission wrestling. Unfortunately, he would end up meeting a similarly strong fighter in Royce during the semifinals and end up losing via submission. The two would meet again for a rematch at the Superfight Championship at UFC 5, where they fought to a draw. Shamrock would also later become the first UFC Superfight champion after defeating Dan Severn at the UFC 6. Shamrock would move on to feature in over 15 main events and co-main events and set many new pay-per-view records during his time in the UFC. He and Royce Gracie would later become the first two fighters inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame in November 2003. Art Jimerson, boxing. Arthur Jimerson was the only pure boxer that competed in UFC 1 and was defeated in the first round by the eventual winner Royce Gracie. During the tournament, Jimerson earned himself the nickname Art One Glove Jimerson, as he fought his match wearing only one glove to protect his jab hand. During the round, Gracie won by successfully taking down the boxer and grapevine his legs, as well as binding his arms to prevent any counterattack. After unsuccessfully trying to get out of the hold, Jimerson eventually tapped out. The UFC would be Jimerson's only MMA match. He would return to boxing soon after and finish his career with a record of 33-18. Gerard Gordeau, Savate. Gerard Gordeau was scouted to take part in the UFC 1 when the event organizers started researching various high-level fighters in Holland. They approached many martial artists, including kickboxing champion Ernesto Kust, but were declined by all. As such, Gordeau was the only one willing to take part in the tournament and was advertised as a Savate artist due to his status as the 1991 World Champion Savate. According to Gordeau, he was initially supposed to face Royce Gracie in the first round of the UFC 1, rather than the finals where the two would eventually meet. But the matchup was changed when the event organizers discovered that he had previously competed in the Fighting Network rings, a Japanese combat sports promotion. Gracie would end up being pitted against boxer Art Jimerson, whilst Gordeau would face sumo wrestler Taila Tule. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks.